exchange.
I'm Victoria. I was involved in the evaluation exchange. Oh, I'm going to take myself off speaker view so I don't just stare at my own face. Um, a couple of years ago, with the team who are now at Compost London, and I wanted to give you a short overview of why we joined, what the organisation got out of it, what we'd do if we did it again, and not just what the organisation got out of it, but what our service users got out of it. So I thought it could be helpful for me to explain a little bit about the charity that I'm talking about here. So Caritas Anchor House is a large homeless charity based in Canning Town, East London. Newham has some of the highest rates of homelessness in the country, and Canning Town is a more socially, economically deprived area of Newham. It's a big centre with many residents, but also a drop-in centre for rough sleepers and also some community support programmes. It's been running for a long time and was originally part of the docks. So when sailors would come in after having spent a long time at sea and needed somewhere to stay, they would stay at Anchor House. When the docks were closed, it transferred into a homeless shelter and has been that ever since. It's got a wide range of staff, all coming from different nationalities, different experiences, and that mirrors also some of the experience of the residents. With all old organisations, it has some real strengths, and some of those are things like local connections, experience, but it also has a lot of challenges. So, sometimes you have things that stay in place for a long time, and this can be really common in the charity sector, particularly in really old established charities where you have practices that have gone on for a long time, and without regular reviews, you can end up just following the same steps you've been following for a long time without actually looking to develop and become better and more modern. Which gets me on to why we joined the evaluation exchange. So we were really keen to be part of the evaluation exchange, which we found out thanks to the team who are now part of Compost London. We wouldn't have known about it otherwise, because just that, we were looking to take a step back from the work we were doing, review it and see if it was still fit for purpose. So we're serving hundreds of service users each year. We think we're doing a good job. We were running internal evaluations, but we weren't sure. We wanted to be able to look at what we were doing and reconsider things, and if they needed to change them. A lot of the reasons that charities will traditionally do evaluations is to improve, but because of the way in which charities are funded, we often find ourselves running shorter term evaluations or things that help us get funding, as opposed to really critiquing our own work. The evaluation exchange really gave us an opportunity to do that in a way that was more significant, together with people who had real skills. So that's a bit about why we got engaged and who Anchor House is. So I thought I'd give you a brief introduction about what it was we actually did. So we were paired up with our counterparts in UCL, along with, and we joined the programme along with some other local charities. The other charities involved were quite different from us. So we had an arts group, we had a sports group, we had an asylum seeking group as well, and a project that does a variety of services, including English language support. So the first thing that happened was that we got to know our colleagues, who we didn't really know that well beforehand, even though we work very close geographically and have the same worldview. We were all so bloody tired working all the time that we never actually got a chance to just meet. So the first great thing was that we met people and we got paired with our, what was then UCL team, with our student team, student professor team, I'm going to call you, our experts. And we started off with a series of training, and we started scoping out the work we wanted to do. We decided that what we wanted to do, rather than evaluate a particular service we do, was evaluate the actual whole approach of the charity, which was no mean feat. It was, I think we went maybe a little bit too large, and we spent a while going backwards and forwards on how we were going to do that in 6 months. But we always came back to this same point, that we wanted, the aim was to improve our service. and we were very clear on that. So eventually we scoped out an area of work and we decided to go for it. The reason that we got involved, again, with some of the reasons I've said before, but I think what's really key to mention is if you work in the third sector or the charity sector or whatever it's called, you don't actually have access to the professional development that you have in other sectors. So if I were, as a project manager for PricewaterhouseCoopers, I might be having a lot of confidence building workshops, a lot of training sessions, etc., and working through my work regularly. If I'm working in the charity sector, we obviously do not have those kind of resources. So we saw the evaluation exchange as an opportunity for us as an organisation, not just individuals in the organisation, but to upskill quite massively and to grow in confidence. So that was part of the reason we joined. Another reason is that running external evaluations are super expensive. Some charities are working very much hand to mouth. And so this was an opportunity for external people to look at the work we were doing and have some validation about and real checks that came from objective parties. We were keen to have also the benefits that comes with those external parties. So if you have someone from an academic institution, they have the weight of that academic institution behind them, even though it may not seem that. If you're a student at such and such university, you may not feel, oh, I'm representing that organisation, I'm just a student there, but actually for the rest of the world you do. And that really, that was really a pull for us to join, because we knew we'd have the support of our local networks, so the other charities and then the team that is now Compost. We knew that we'd have the support of then this external academic body. So we joined and we began scoping out our work and we began evaluating our service. We went backwards and forwards for a while on the methods we would use and the language that we would approach people with, what time we would meet with our residents, should we evaluate the service using one-to-one interviews, should we do focus groups, and eventually we came up with a really different approach. Charities will typically always do the same things, which usually are surveys, because they're cheap and cheerful. But doing this exchange allowed us to explore different methods about how to evaluate our work. It also gave us the opportunity to design that approach around our service users themselves. So we ran sessions with service users outside of the 9 to 5 because some of them work and maybe some of them don't want to be interviewed about whether or not they like the heating system at 9 a.m. We used the diverse skill sets of the academics. So for example, we had different languages within our academic group, which was super helpful because, like I said, our service users were diverse and they were able to relate a little bit better to the team. We did things like making sure that no staff or our own volunteers were in the space to try and create a safe environment where we could really get the best information to be able to grow our organisation afterwards. Please do tell me if I'm going too fast or speaking too quickly. I do have a tendency to. So that's basically what we did, and I thought I'd give an overview about what actually came out as a result. So we came out with a nice lengthy report, which coincided really well. Normally I'm not a big report person, but I'm really glad we did it because it coincided with a big change in management in our charity. So we had an outgoing CEO and an incoming CEO just at the turn of our evaluation exchange. And so this report became the first thing that she read about the charity. And the CEO read what works and what doesn't work. We ended up really focusing on these two questions. What's good? What's not so good? And it became, blueprint is a big word, right? But it became an important tool for her to review what she would like to prioritise going forward. She did that together with the local authority. So in our case, it's the London Borough of Newham. and together with our fundraising team to look at what areas we should be looking for extra funds for. So some things that brought up by the service users around facilities, some were not about facilities, they were about like behaviours and other things. But it gave us some concrete evidence to prove to funders that we needed funds in a particular way. And that became super helpful for the actual growth of the organisation itself. In terms of other benefits, I wanted to mention, before talking about the benefits to the staff, the benefits to our actual service users. So the approach that we took and the investment of the evaluation exchange was important because it demonstrated to our service users that we valued what they thought and their opinions. It showed them that we were actually going to make time to listen to what they said and change accordingly. Now that might sound a bit trite, but actually when you're working with very little resources, very long hours, sometimes it can be quite hard to do that. So the evaluation exchange really gave us that opportunity to give space to the service user in a different way to the way that we were doing every day, and demonstrate respect for who they are and what they think. And I think that really can't be underemphasized. I found that after the exchange, and I'm not saying you should do this for these reasons, but I had individual service users even give me little presents, not presents they have to declare because they're, bottles of champagne, but, little cards to say, thank you, this is what friendship is, this is what kindness is, and things like this, which I don't take credit for personally. It's the exchange itself that did that for them and showed them respect. And particularly in a charity that deals with things like homelessness, those things are important because regularly these are the types of people that are not receiving general respect by the public. Especially if you've gone through a period of rough sleeping, you can find that you might have been disrespected a lot of times in your life. And so I really thought that was of huge benefit. The other benefits of service use, some of the obviously practical ones. So we actually did then invest in things as a result of what they wanted. We gave them an opportunity to do something a bit different with us. So it changed our relationship with the service users from one that was just provider of service, receiver of service, to something slightly more equitable. Finally, in terms of staff benefits, the exchange massively upskilled our staff. So it wasn't just me that took part. Other staff members from across the team took part, and they were in different divisions of the organisation. So we had someone who worked in reception, we had someone who worked in IT, and we had someone that worked front of house. So it upskilled all of us to the point that we were able to repeat some of these learnings, both in the charity, and some of us moved on and were able to use them in other charities as well, which is important because it allows the growth of the sector as a whole. And it also taught us quite a lot around confidence. So you might have in charities people who are highly qualified or super intelligent or super capable, and they just don't have the confidence to recognise it and to make the best use out of those skills. And the evaluation exchange really helped that. It helped us realise, well, actually, I do know how to ask questions and I do know how to report things. And those things that you thought were always part of a specialist field or only academics can do that, it really helped us actually use some of those skills ourselves, which otherwise we might not have done for fear of not doing it properly. So, combating those kind of personal stigmas you might have. It also demonstrated some investment in our own teams and a desire to improve, which helps because, especially like I say, in old organisations, sometimes you can feel that things don't change, and for staff that can be challenging as well. So showing that there is a chance for change and a chance for growth was really helpful for us as a whole. There were a few unexpected things that came out. of the project. I mean, we made great friends, which was good. I wasn't expecting that. Thought I didn't have any time for friends, but it turns out if they're good friends, there's always space. Like I say, we made connections with across the sector, which was super helpful. And I later left Anchor House, but I found, like I said, that I used those same skills in other charities and took some of those approaches and some of that mentality towards other charities. So some of those things were solid skills that I learned as part of the evaluation exchange, and some were some of the softer skills that I learned just from being in a wider network with other charities that did different types of work. And I don't think that that should be undervalued. It's hard to sort of record the changes that makes, but it changes your approach to your work and can really improve then the impact that your work has on other people. And that's basically where I want to go. I wanted to just say I would totally do it again. I would really recommend anyone to take part, particularly if you come from a non-social science background. We had scientists, we had social scientists, we had a bit of everything, and it really helped because it meant that we were able to approach things with lots of different in lots of different ways, and we took advantage of the skills that some people had that were more mathematical and those that were softer, and that was great. I would say if you do take part, please be committed to it. Don't join and then leave after 2 weeks, because that's not helpful if if you're working in the third sector and you haven't got many, that you're probably dedicating extra time outside of your working hours to this. But mainly I'd say it's worth it because you will grow as a person, your work will be better, and you will massively impact the charity that you're working with or the third sector body. They don't have, these schemes aren't that common, there aren't many, but they make a difference. And I hope I've explained that well enough, but I'm happy for anyone to have questions afterwards, so please feel free. Thanks.